Boker Tov Chavrim, I'm Stephen Benoon. You're watching Israeli News Live. Very disturbing situation inside of Syria, but nothing that we haven't already made clear to you guys here on Israeli News Live. We've been covering this extensively, how that the U.S. coalition there has come inside of Syria, has attacked the pro-Syrian forces, the Iranian forces, Hezbollah forces there near Al-Tanf, Syria. It has become more and more a problem. Even the foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov of Russia, has stated that the safe zones that President Trump has been setting up inside of southern Syria are illegitimate. They were not done with the cooperation with the UN Security Council that had already agreed upon those safe zones working with Russia, Iran, and Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. That being stated there, I do realize that Iran still is a threat for Israel, and understandably so. But even more alarming, but yet something we've covered on Israeli News Live many times before, is that it appears that the U.S. is actually cooperating and working with ISIS. And unfortunately, the Kurdish fighters are seeming to do the same now that they've got America on their backside there. Listen in here to what RT's news correspondent actually says about this, quoting from Russian generals who actually say as well that it appears that the U.S. is colluding with ISIS once again. Remember, John Kerry in the leaked audio stated that this is exactly what they were doing when they saw ISIS advancing on Damascus. They were waiting for them to overrun the country. Now, if this is really the case, that poses a major concern not only for Syria but for America as well. Are they planning on allowing ISIS to run America too? Are they planning on allowing Sharia law to become the law of the land? Because this is exactly what will happen inside of Syria once the U.S. gets done with what they want to do to topple Bashar al-Assad, who has actually been inclusive of Christianity, Judaism, and that of Islam. Take a listen.
What we're hearing from the Russian Defense Ministry is much more than just disappointment. This is some of the strongest criticism of the U.S.-led coalition we ever heard on an official level from Russian generals. ISIL are claimed to be surrendering towns to the opposition without putting up a fight at all, since apparently they have reached some sort of a deal. That's what the Russian generals are claiming. Plus, the U.S. and allies are making an effort to hamper any advancements of the Syrian government forces in the south of the country. That's another claim.
One gets the impression that under the pretext of fighting international terrorism, America is using ISIL to prevent Syrian forces from advancing.
Coalition strikes on pro-government forces let ISIL fighters escape, and it's strengthening the terrace near Palmyra in Deir Zor.
This is ISIL-held Raqqa, and on this map you can see how...
Let me share something else with you guys as well. What was really interesting is Ron Paul in the United States, also his own organization came on board in this interview as well. Listen to this.
Forces approaching a firefight with ISIL, with ISIS, and the U.S. attacks the people that are fighting ISIS, you have no other conclusion but the fact that the U.S. actions are benefiting ISIS. I don't know if that is the intent. I suspect it is not the intent, but that certainly is the effect of U.S. action in the region.
I mean, and in terms of everybody supposedly is meant to be...
There again, Ron Paul's office there, their own news correspondent, saying that it may not be, he doesn't think that that's the intent, but this is exactly what they're doing. They're colluding with ISIS by trying to knock out Iranian forces. Now, let me just say this too, because I know many people that are supporters of Israel are very concerned about the threat of Iran is for Israel. But you have to remember too, Iran has been fighting alongside U.S. Special Forces inside of Iraq to overtake ISIS with Mosul. Now, it's almost hypocritical to see that now the U.S. is willing to strike Iranian forces inside of Syria. It seems to me that this is more dealing with national interest, and the U.S. goes for its interest and not for its allies. I'm Stephen Benoon with Israeli News Live. Shalom.